Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I have two things in mind to do for today's session, or rather three things. One is a very brief summary of what we covered last time, very basic points. Second is a sort of stuti of the Gita, which is written by Sri Aurobindo in the Bengali writings. And third, of course, the first paragraph of the essays on the Gita. We have half an hour. So um, I believe because it is a short session and last time jo kiya tha in continuity with that, uh, to summarize the previous session and read that it's a very powerful thing which he has written. Original is of course in Bengali. I do not know Bengali, but the English translation is also very, very powerful. It is wonderful thing to read. The utsaha that comes for reading the Gita after that is amazing. Myself, I read it even 8, 9 years after I started reading the Gita, and still it had a tremendous effect. So I'll share that soon. First of all, for the last session summary, um, fundamentally, what I said last time, that mother's quotation, her comments on the thoughts and aphorisms, what is it? Sri Aurobindo considers the message of the Gita to be the basis of the great spiritual movement that has led and will lead humanity more and more to its liberation, that is to say, to its escape from falsehood and ignorance towards the truth. Right? In the aphorism, Sri Aurobindo says, the colloquy at the field of Kurukshetra will yet liberate humanity. Yet. Right? And Mother makes this comment on 29th June 1960, what I said. So the role of the Gita, basically the power that the Gita gives us is to unshackle ourselves from the bonds of ignorance. Here, I mean, I might as well just give another very technical and sort of fundamental definition of bondage, which comes from the Vedas. Okay. So it is from the fifth mandala. The shloka goes like this. Chatvari shringa trayo asya pada dve shirshe sapta hastaso asya tridha baddho vrishabho roraviti mahodevo martyam avivesha. This is referred to in the Secret of the Veda. So he speaks of the four higher principles. And I mean, if I go into that, it will be longer. Basically, it says that three are the bonds. Okay? The three bonds, it says that the bull, which is basically the symbol of the Purusha in the Veda, which in turn is the symbol of our soul. Purusho Antaratma is how the soul is referred to in the Kathopanishad. Okay? Purusho Antaratma, Purushaha Antaratma, like that. So, Tridha Baddho Vrishabho Roraviti. Three are the bonds, it says. What are those three bonds? It's nothing but the mind, life, and body. So, bondage is nothing but self-identification of the consciousness with either body or vital or mind. If in our consciousness we are not identifying ourselves either as body or as the vital or life energies, desire, being, etc., or as mind, then we are free. ठीक है? गीता के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द थर्ड चैप्टर देयर इज अ श्लोका इंद्रियाणि पराणि आहुः इंद्रियेभ्यः परम मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः. So the senses are subtler than the objects of the senses. Then the senses is the mind subtler. Then the mind is the buddhi subtler. And subtler than the buddhi is he, simply. So basically that what is called buddhi in this shloka is what is called mental being by Sri Aurobindo. What is called manaha in the Bhagavad Gita, that is basically sense mind. ठीक है? Sense dash mind, वो इंद्रियों का राजा है. इंद्रिया नाम मनश्चास्मि, it comes in the Gita. But that man is not the mind. Okay? Proper thinking mind. जिसको बोलते हैं ना मन चल गया. ठीक है? या मन किसी चीज की तरफ आकर्षित हो गया. That's like an इंद्रिया basically. It is not actually जिसको हम मन बोलते हैं as we say कि भाई इसे मन लगा के पढ़ो, बट वो कंफ्यूजन रहता है बिटवीन द माइंड एंड द मन. इट्स नॉट द सेम थिंग. द कंफ्यूजन अराइजेस, आई माइट क्लियर, बिकॉज जो धातु है फॉर थिंकिंग, दैट इज मन धातु इन संस्कृत. म एंड न विद अ हलन. ऑलराइट. But basically the mana there means the sense mind, the indriya, जो कि इनपुट और आउटपुट दोनों लेती है. So again, मतलब थोड़ा सा ये ज्यादा वो लॉन्ग ड्रॉन हो जाएगा. Basically the definition that the Veda is giving is tridha baddho. Three are the bonds, and the bonds are the body, the life, and the mind. If your consciousness is identified with the body or the life or the mind, then you are bound. I have said earlier also, Shobando says in one of his letters, I had put that on the group also, that in this yoga, the consciousness takes its station above the head. Once it has taken its station above the head, yani here, Sahasrara Chakra, you are free. Up till here is the mind. This is the center of the mind, the thinking mind and all that. Beyond that is the spiritual consciousness, right? So that is one thing. So the Shri Aurobindo considers the message of the Gita to be the basis. Okay? There is one quotation from the letters wherein Shri Aurobindo lists 7 points, and then he says कि ये सब गीता में है, and 8th and 9th or 7th or 8th which is covered in his yoga. Right? I'll share that. मुझे थोड़ा ढूंढना पड़ेगा. Right? So Shri Aurobindo considers the message of the Gita to be the basis, आधार है. Okay? This is why it is important. Okay? And you know, another point of view to look at it is, as far as importance is concerned, whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, if you are having an Indian body, okay, the Bhagavad Gita is basically part of your blood. वो आपके खून में बह रही है. It is called mother, you know, Amba. It is called in the prayer, Amba Tvam Anusandadhami. Oh mother, मैं तुम्हारा अनुसंधान करता हूं. 594 pages on it. Also, I might say, Sri Aurobindo had a sort of, I mean, it's obvious from his aphorisms. He says to Krishna that, you know, in your love, I have become a woman. He says even to that extent, Madhura Bhav. So there is no question whatsoever that he had, I mean, as a bhakta, as a sadhak, not as an avatar, he had extreme love and devotion for Krishna and for the Gita. Very clearly. And he says 2 scriptures he mainly derived inspiration from. Scriptures. Earliest he got help from the writings of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, then mainly from the Gita and the Upanishads. He said, I meditated with the help of the Upanishads and practiced the yoga of the Gita. Maybe sentence, I practiced the yoga of the Gita and meditated with the help of the Upanishads. This is what he says, right? So, Sri Aurobindo considers the message of the Gita to be the basis of the great spiritual movement that has led and will lead humanity more and more to its liberation, that is to say, to its escape from falsehood and ignorance towards the truth. हमारे जो कॉन्शियसनेस के 3 बीइंग के 3 मेन पार्ट्स हैं, द विल कर्म योगा, द नॉलेज पार्ट थिंकिंग पार्ट ज्ञान योगा, एंड द फीलिंग एंड इमोशन भक्ति योगा. द गीता टीचेस हाउ टू यूनाइट दीज 3 विद द डिवाइन, एंड ही कॉल्स इट द बेस्ट योगा. दिस इज द हाईएस्ट योगा, Supreme Yoga, etc. These words are there in the Gita also. They are there in the essays on the Gita also. And not necessarily simply as a translation of the text. Because these are the 3 main powers. When you read the synthesis of yoga, first initial chapter introduction, what does he say? Hatha Yoga is dependent on body. Okay? Usme the koshas that are used are the Anna Kosha and the Prana Kosha. And therefore, it is very laborious. In Raja Yoga, it is mainly the mind which is used. Concentration power. You make your chitta vritti nirodha karke purify karo, and then with your concentration power, dhyan, dharana and samadhi, you go into samadhi, right? But still, he says, better than these and higher than these is the triple path of the Gita. This is there in the introduction to the synthesis, right? So first sentence was that. And then from the time of its appearance, mark the words of Mother. From the time of its appearance, the Gita has had an immense spiritual action. But with the new interpretation that Sri Aurobindo has given to it, its influence has increased considerably and has become decisive. This is the main word in those 2 sentences. Decisive, right? So, like that. Okay. And as I said, जो just उसको खत्म करने के लिए brief summary को last time जो किया था, the Gita came, it came as a gospel of divine works. Its objective was to divinize life. Okay? Gita में several places it is there. मत भावमागता बहवो ज्ञान tapasa पूता मत भावमागता. Mat bhavam means my nature. Exactly what Sri Aurobindo is saying, but not in so elaborate terms. Okay? This is there in the 4th chapter. Bahavo, several. Jnana tapasa. Passing through the austerity of jnana. Bahavo jnana tapasa. Bhuta, being purified by the tapas of jnana. Mad bhavamagataha. They have attained to my nature. Okay? 14th chapter mein again it comes. Verse number 1 or 2. Param bhuyah pravakshyami. Jnana nam jnanam uttamam. यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे पराम सिद्धिमितो गताः इदं ज्ञानम् उपाश्रित्य मम साधर्म्यमागता. There it comes, mama sadharmyamagata. So it is hinted the yoga of self perfection, which Sri Aurobindo has added in the synthesis of yoga. Okay, I am not saying that simply. Obviously, it is not that synthesis of yoga. You know, the first 3 parts are simply elaboration of the Gita. It is not like that. It is not like that. Every avatar brings a new dimension. He presents according to the times, according to the level which humanity has reached. He teaches things in a new way. And of course, with the Gita, Sri Aurobindo is limited. So when he is writing the essays on the Gita, he is circumscribed by the scripture and he is bound to explain it. When he is writing synthesis of yoga, he is free to express himself fully. Right? But still, we should to build the link. Basically, you know, the teachings of education, mein Sri Aurobindo, the principles is from the near to the far. As Indians, you know, even if we had not studied it, the Gita is something which is near to our hearts. It is, as I said, it is part of our blood. So therefore, I am trying to build this link between the avatar of the past, that is Krishna, and the avatar of the future, that is Sri Aurobindo. Right? So that yoga of self-perfection is also hinted in the Bhagavad Gita to some extent, in these kind of verses. Mad bhavamagataha. This is, I believe, मैं share कर दूंगा, 4.10 के आसपास है, and this 14.2. मम साधर्म्यमागता. ठीक है? So हाँ, and basically what happened कि Buddhism का जो वो था interlude in between, that kind of stopped it. क्योंकि Gita says works. Without work, without action, there is no life. The Gita is actually a gospel of divine life. It should not be mistaken that Gita is for sannyasis or anything. It is not like that at all. In fact, Gita clearly says Tyaga is better than sannyasa. Tyaga means internal renunciation. Sannyasa means external renunciation. Very clearly. 18th chapter के beginning में the question is asked by Arjuna. हाँ? कि क्या इन दोनों में से संन्यासस्य महाबाहो तत्त्वमिच्छामि वेदितुम त्यागस्य च ऋषिकेश पृथक् केशिनिषूदनम्. Tell me clearly what is the difference, right? So, but then Buddhism का जो आया, because of that, the Gita sort of took a step back. उसकी जो teaching थी वो obstruct हुई. The Gita had its reverse effect on Buddhism. Some of the teachings of Buddhism, all this is from Sri Aurobindo. Works of compassion की जो theory Buddhism में है, that is because of the, you can say almost the ulat var of Gita. The reverse influence that the Gita had. Words are taken bodily from the Gita into the Buddhist scriptures. Okay? Then subsequently in the, you know, जैसे बोलते हैं काल के बहाव में, it fell into the hands of the acharyas. And जो मैंने phrase last time quote किया था, they used it as a means of dialectical warfare. ये word इसमें आने वाला है first chapter में. I think all we will have time is for reading that beautiful sort of stuti from Bengali writings. We can start the first paragraph tomorrow. So, वो शास्त्र है लेकिन उसको शस्त्र की तरह use किया. This was the great mistake of the acharyas, right? They also did their part. Shankara, all of them, they contributed. They contributed to the richness of spiritual literature by commenting on the Gita and all that. But all those were partial interpretations, because of which the Gita was not able to unleash itself. It was not able to do its action in an uninterrupted and free-flowing manner, as it was supposed to do. All right. So all this was there. Then finally, when it Bankim का मैंने बताया था, कर्मण्यवादी का रास्ते, he got stuck there. तिलक का I don't know, but I mean I guess nationalism के duty के sense में लिया होगा. Mahatma Gandhi also interpreted. Obviously, we know that he was an ahinsavadi. So I don't know how he could interpret the Gita. And you know, all these people. So, but it is Sri Aurobindo who has given a total and integral interpretation of the Gita. And when we read it, we get the feeling that nobody else except the Lord could have written like this, the way he has written. All right. So just in this flow, since we are telling the greatness of the Gita, मैंने पिछले क्लास में एक आधा श्लोक कोट किए थे, वेरी वेरी पावरफुल, दिस इज वर्थ मेमोराइजिंग। जो का लोटस लीफ टाइप का, महापापाति पापानि गीता ध्यानम करोति चेत क्वचित स्पर्शम न कुर्वन्ति नलिनी दलमम्बुवत्। इवन इफ यू आर द ग्रेटेस्ट ऑफ सिनर्स, ठीक है, लेस्ट वी आर अफ्लिक्टेड बाय द मेंटालिटी की हाय मुझसे ये हो गया वो हो गया, जस्ट रीड द गीता। आई नो दैट इंटेग्रल योगा फॉलोअर्स, सावित्री इज एवरीथिंग, फाइन, एवरीथिंग हैज इट्स प्लेस। गीता का जो संस्कृत है, स्पेशली द 11th चैप्टर, I mean, it can do anything to you. It is so powerful, so powerful. I was thinking maybe, if possible, Shweta bhi keh rahi thi, maybe once a week we'll have just a chanting class for Sanskrit, Gita ka. We did it once in society in Pondicherry. Yeah, Manoj ji is opt for it, right? So, Nalini Dalam Ambuvat, you remain untouched by like a lotus leaf. That is the power of the Gita. Mahapapati papani Gita dhyanam karoti chet kvachit sparsham na kurvanti. Nothing can touch you, right? So 8:47, we have a hard stop at 9. So I'll just read this very, very powerful thing which Sri Aurobindo has written on the Gita in Bengali originally. One second. Yeah. Oh, acha, ye wala nahi. Yes. Is it visible? So the Gita ranks first among the world's scriptures. ठीक है, इफ यू, ये गीता की एक आरती है क्या हिंदी में, तो सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी, श्रुतियों की रानी, दिस इज हाउ शी इज वर्शिप्ड। सकल शास्त्र की स्वामिनी, शी इज द एम्प्रेस अमंग ऑल स्क्रिप्चर्स, ठीक है। श्रुतियों की रानी, शी इज द क्वीन ऑफ द श्रुतिस। That is what Sri Aurobindo is saying in English. The Gita ranks first. I must say this is written in 1909, and Sri Aurobindo himself has not written his scriptures because this is 1909 when he is writing this. This is Karma Yogi. So he has surpassed, his scriptures have in that sense surpassed. But again, जैसे मैंने पिछली बार बोला था, गीता का क्या बोला है कृष्ण ने? परम ही ब्रह्म कथितम योग युक्तेन तन्मया. It was stated by me in a state of union in yoga with the Param Brahman. So there cannot be anything higher than the Supreme Brahman. हो ही नहीं सकता है. It is by definition supreme. And I told कि Sri Aurobindo had that dwelling in the Parabrahman for several hours on 15th August 1912, after which he wrote the yoga and its objects. Right? So in that sense, if you see, Gita is really the supreme. हो ही नहीं सकता उससे ज्यादा कुछ. मत्तः परतरम नान्यत् किंचित् अस्ति धनंजय. 7.7. There is nothing more supreme than me, O Dhananjaya. कुछ बचना ही नहीं है इसके बाद. Nothing remains. Okay? तो we need to keep it in this perspective. एजेंडा में एक जगह सत्य मदर से कहता है, मदर इज गीता ओवर मेंटल. मदर कहती है, नो इट इज सुप्रामेंटल. उसके भी कान खड़े हो जाते हैं. व्हाट आर यू सेइंग? देन शी क्लैरिफाइज, नो, इट इज द मैसेज ऑफ वननेस. डोंट कंफ्यूज दैट इट इज ओवर मेंटल. इट इज सुप्रामेंटल बिकॉज सुप्रामेंटल मीन्स टोटलिटी. इट मीन्स वननेस. सुप्रामेंटल बेसिकली मीन्स दैट विजन, दैट हार्मोनी इन विच देयर इज नो ऑपोजिशन, देयर इज नो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इन दैट. राइट? सो गीता इज अ टोटल एंड इंटेग्रल विजन. देयर इज नथिंग लेफ्ट आउट in the vision of the Supreme in the Gita. Right? So now, the Gita ranks first among the world's scriptures. The knowledge that has been briefly explained in the Gita is the highest and most secret knowledge. The law of right living. This comes 9th chapter जो है गीता का, राज विद्या राजगुह्य योगो नाम नवमोऽध्याय. The law of right living, dharma. In fact, Krishna says, Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. Because you are my bhakta as well as my sakha, that is why I am revealing to you this highest secret. 18th chapter, this is from the 4th chapter, what I quoted. 4.5 probably. Again in the 18th chapter he says, Guhyat guhyataram mama. The knowledge has been revealed to you which is secret than the secret most. Guhyat guhyataram maya. Something like that, right? Having reflected on it in your due understanding way, do as you like, right? So the knowledge that has been briefly explained in the Gita is the highest and most secret knowledge. How do we become deserving for this most secret knowledge? What is it that made Arjuna deserving? This is the question. The answer is total surrender. इनफैक्ट श्री अरविंदो प्रश्न उठाते हैं, विदुरा इसमें अच्छा था, कर्ण इसमें अच्छा था, Bhishma was good in this. Dhritarashtra was the most curious. Yudhishthir was Dharmaraj himself. Why all these great people were not chosen? Why was Arjuna chosen for the Gita? Because the kind of perfect surrender that he had, nobody else. So if we are be to eligible, Gita is not knowledge, normal. Okay? Highest and most secret. If you read the third chapter, what does it say? Shreyo. Shreya word उसमें नहीं, Shreya नहीं. What is the word? जो मतलब highest, श्रेष्ठ, श्रेष्ठ, जो highest है. Krishna is the Shreshtatam, he is Bhagavan himself. Arjuna is one of the greatest vibhutis of that age. So look at the level of the conversation. किसके बीच में हो रही है यार? It's not among ordinary people. Basically what I mean to say is, if we want to benefit by the study of this book or by these books, energy and consciousness, we need to raise our consciousness higher. And in 2 words, perfect surrender. The more our surrender towards the divine becomes pure and perfect, the more we are able to grow in the light of the consciousness which the Gita is showing to us. All right. The knowledge that has been briefly explained in the Gita is the highest and most secret knowledge. The law of right living, dharma, propounded in the Gita, includes within its scope and is the basis of all other law of right living. Gita shreyeham tishtami, Gita me chottamam griham, Gita jnanam upashritya trin lokan palayamyaham. Vishnu says this. I take refuge in the ashraya of the Gita. Gita shreyeham tishtami. Gita me chottamam griham. The Gita is my supreme abode. Gita jnanam upashritya. Taking, recourse to the knowledge of the Gita, I maintain the 3 worlds. What can be more powerful than this? Right? The way of work shown in the Gita is the eternal path for the world's march to the heights. इसके लिए note कर लें 3.20 to 3.26. These are 7 of the most important verses, all from Sri Aurobindo I am saying, in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. Okay? The Gita is as if the bottomless sea, the source of a myriad gems. One may spend a whole lifetime fathoming its depths and still not touch the bottom or gauge how deep it is. One may search for 100 years and still find it difficult to gather even 100th part of the riches contained in this endless store of gems. And yet, if one can recover 1 or 2 of these gems, the poor man may become rich. The deep thinker acquire wisdom. The hater of God become a devotee. Apichet suduracharu bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavyaha samyak vyavasito hi saha. The Gita says, even if you are a sudurachari, not just durachari, sudurachari, okay? Apichet suduracharu bhajate mam ananya bhag. But if you worship the divine with a full heart, bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavyaha. He is to be regarded as a sadhu. Samyak vyavasito hi saha. Because he has resolved correctly. Samyak. Truly, perfectly, completely. Samyak vyavasito hi saha. And yet, if one can recover the poor, the hater of God, the mighty and powerful hero of action come back to his field of work, fully equipped and ready for achieving his life's purpose. Divine action, enlightened action, simply working all the time 24 hours is not karma yoga. It is not karma yoga. It is what is called workaholism. It is rajo guna. 14th chapter जब आएगा, लंबा टाइम लगेगा आने में. Clearly, yoga means you are doing work in union with the divine consciousness. There are ways to find it कि ये कैसे हो रहा है. ठीक है? कर्मण्यवाधिकारस्ते is the first step of that. Effortlessness. ठीक है? कर्मण्य कर्मयः पश्येत् अकर्मणि च कर्मयः सबुद्धिमान मनुष्येषु सयुक्तः कृत्स्न कर्मकृत्. When you see action in inaction and inaction in action, then you are a yogi, then you are intelligent among men and you are a doer of all action. ये तो उसमें आता है 4th chapter में. थर्ड का वर्स नंबर 27 आई थिंक. अहंकार विमूढ़ात्मा कर्ता अमिति वन्यते. It is deluded by egoism that men think that they are the doer. Actually, we are not doing anything. It is when we become conscious of the play of the gunas, जिसको Sri Aurobindo witness consciousness कहते हैं, then we realize it is nature which is doing everything through the three gunas. It is just the gunas which are doing everything, right? So anyway, so the difference is that action and union with the divine, with a growing union in consciousness with the divine, right? So the Gita is an inexhaustible mine of jewels. Even if the jewels are gathered from this mine for ages, the coming generations will always be delighted and astonished by their acquisitions of new and priceless gems. Such is this book, replete with deep and occult lore, and yet the language is perfectly clear. Why he says so? Upanishad ki jo language hai, it is very high. It does not come down to the intellectual plane, mind you. वो spiritual language. It is all seer vision said in a seer-like language. You read the 18 verses of the Ishopanishad without Sri Aurobindo's commentary, you will not understand anything. He himself has written 8 or 9 commentaries on those 18 verses. 600 पेज लिखे हैं 18 verses के ऊपर. Because it is so dense, so packed. Gita is not like that. Gita is both spiritual as well as intellectual. It is in intellectual terms you and I can understand. That is why he's saying. The language is perfectly clear. The style is simple. Again, if you compare with the earlier Sanskrit, the surface meaning, not the deeper meaning. Surface meaning easily grasped. Okay? By simply gliding along the surf of this bottomless sea without taking a deep plunge, अगर कोई deep ना भी जाए, there is a certain gain in strength and joy. सुपरफिशियल तरीके से भी उसको एक्सप्लोर करोगे तब भी वो तुमको बल और आनंद दोनों प्रदान करेगी. दिस इज द गीता. ठीक है. बाय टेकिंग अ वॉक अराउंड द पेरिफेरीज without entering the deep recesses of the mind illumined with jewels, there can be found strewn among the grass bright jewels which will keep us rich throughout life. Just look at the beauty of the language also. ये लिटरेचर है अपने आप. अब नाउ why read essays on the Gita? भाई इतनी सारी commentaries लिखी जा चुकी हैं. Some of us may have already read 2 or 3 commentaries. Why the hell should I read another commentary? उसका reasons already बता चुका हूं. Why Sri Aurobindo's essays on the Gita is mandatory? Because इतना complete interpretation किसी ने पहले दिया ही नहीं. गीता को जो मुक्त किया है, उसकी नॉलेज को अनलीश किया है, वो श्री अरविंदो ने. यू कैन रीड, आई हैव रेड 3 or 4, सो आई कैन से फ्रॉम कंपैरिजन. इस्कॉन वाला, चिन्मयानंद वाला, स्वरूपानंद वाला मैंने पूरा पढ़ा रामकृष्ण का, एंड श्री अरविंदोज इज द 4th one. It is very clear that this is the most comprehensive and the most authentic explanation of the Gita, right? The Gita may well have 1,000 commentaries. Look at this. But a time will never come when a new one will not be needed. There can be no such world-renowned scholar or man of deep knowledge as can write a commentary on the Gita, on reading which we can say this is enough. It will not now be necessary to add another commentary on the Gita. Everything has been grasped. After expending all our intellectual powers, we can hope to understand and explain only a few facets of this knowledge. I mean, it's not to scare or intimidate thing. This is the reality of the Gita. जो आचार्य वगैरह है वो कहते हैं it requires 14 years of thorough and deep engagement with the Gita before you can start understanding what the Gita is. स्वामी गोविंद देव गिरी, उनके मुंह से मैंने सुना. He is a Marathi great scholar and all, teacher है, authority on the Gita, right? After expending all our intellectual powers, we can hope to understand and explain only a few facets of this knowledge. On being engrossed in yoga or by rising from height to greater height on the way of desireless works, nishkama karma, all we shall be able to say is that we have had experience of some of its truths or have applied in the course of this life 1 or 2 of the Gita's teachings in actual practice. These are the 2 keywords. As Mother says, a drop of practice is better than an ocean of theories, resolutions, and you read the Gita whole life, but if you don't put it into practice, it's not going to make too much of a difference. थोड़ा फर्क फिर भी पड़ेगा, especially if you read in Sanskrit. Even Sri Aurobindo's essays on, I would say that the Shakti in Sri Aurobindo's essays on the Gita is more than the original Gita in Sanskrit. It's just another level of Shakti. Just, it blanks you out. It is that powerful, right? So, but the main thing is to put it into practice. इसीलिए our demand and need from the Gita में जो first chapter है, Sri Aurobindo will very, very clearly state the objective that why we are making a study of the, right? So it is 9.1. I guess we close for today and with half a minute of silence. And Shweta, we'll meet tomorrow at 8, right? Who was there today? Okay. Thank you.